Give it a second here. I gotta do a couple things here. Well, am I live here? I think we're live here. We're about to find out in just a
Well,
second.
pull the steak out and you'll be live.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, no, we are live. We are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 1051. I am with another writer. She showed up, albeit very briefly, in the anthology episode, but she is back for more abuse interview. We haven't figured that out yet. We'll figure this out as we go. Susan Shwartz joins the podcast. How you doing, Susan?
I'm doing fine. As I said, we had snow. I just
Yes.
came back from Boscone. I didn't have the con crud. This is an accomplishment.
Yeah. So COVID never really has hit me hard. Like the most I think so I think I got it. This is when I think I got it. I got it in 2020 when it was January in Vancouver. And the reason
Oh,
why
good.
yeah, and the reason why I think I got it then was because it's the first time I had a flu in 20 years. I don't get flus. I get colds, but I don't really get flus. Right?
I get flu shots.
I I managed flu shot. Actually, I found with me it was the opposite. The moment I walked away from a flu shot was when I stopped getting the flu. So
Ah,
yeah, I walked away from them, and it was just like I stopped. I didn't like my constitution doesn't need it. So I got a flu for the first like the year of COVID happened. The first it was like right after Christmas. How we like again? This was before COVID was COVID and all that stuff. We had this like weird sickness going on in the like place I was working, and I was just exhausted the first day. I was just done. That was my flu. I had like a body ache, cold kind of thing the second day, and I was done by the third day, and that has been it.
that's good.
Yeah.
I don't get too many flus. I got COVID after coming back from a convention. I mean, your resistance goes down and it gets you.
Hmm. It happens. Like I said, it never has been a big deal with me. So it's like, and that's just that's just the way it worked out. It's just like it goes in and out. I had a nagging cough when it was done, but that disappeared. That disappeared too relatively quickly. So I mean that was it. So
My doctor yells at me if I don't get the shots. I mean, his goal for me is to be a pincushion.
I see. I see. Well, I'm 50-50 with that. Like my dad's a naturopath, so
Ah,
I don't necessarily go by just what a doc. Not because I don't necessarily agree or disagree with doctors. It's just I've got to watch my dad fix people that's taken some of this stuff over the years. So I don't always I don't I tend to my perspective is I'm pro treatment, right? However it works for you, however you choose to fix yourself up. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, then I've seen both ends of the spectrum. I've seen people on 20 different pills to function.
oh
I've seen
gosh.
it. Oh no, the dirty little secret about the medical industry is that it's not the doctors, but the insurance companies and stuff. There's a profit basis in it too. So
No. Do tell.
do tell, right? Right? Most
I'll tell
people.
you something. It gets worse as you get older, and the pills get more expensive.
Well, yeah. Well, see, I secretly think because I've watched my grandmother. She's in her 80s now, and no, I think what happens in the United States is that the whole theory is once you retire, they want to kill. There is a small like cynical part of me. They want to kill you as fast as they can.
Oh, I agree with you completely.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
retired.
yeah. So I mean, they want to get rid of you because you cost money. There's just a little part of me that just was like, it's an evil way of looking at it, but there is nothing in the United States, even up here in Canada, it's somewhat true here too. Like whether people want to admit this or not, right? It's just there is that okay, you've done our thing, get out, right?
Well, I will tell you a story about Ireland
Sure.
and an American writer who now gone, who was a grandmaster. She expatriated to Ireland. I'm not going to mention her name,
No
but
worries.
people will know it. And anyhow, she needed a hip replacement. And she was a lady of some years, and they didn't know if they were going to waste a hip replacement on an old lady. And so she said, "That's okay. I'm going to the States. I'm going to Hollywood to talk about turning one of my books into a movie, and I'll have it done there." She got it done immediately.
Of course. Money talks, bullshit walks. That's just the way it goes. That's the truth, right? Like again, no one likes. It's weird. It's weird because, like I said, I'm not saying again. I'm not saying I had a slightly different take in my younger days, but in the whole of like what I've seen, there is definitely I don't care who you are, what you believe, there's definitely a profit basis in the medical industry, and that is reality. I don't necessarily think a doctor's necessarily out on a master plan to kill you, but I'm also like, they definitely there is definitely money has a way of if you don't have money, there is a certain callousness to it, and I think it'd be less than honest if it said any other way.
I agree with you completely.
Yeah, which sucks because honestly, I mean, I think there's great value in experience as I've gotten older slash wiser. Question mark on the wiser part. Sometimes you wonder, like sometimes you wonder, it's like, have I really learned anything? And sometimes you're like, I don't think I have. And when you get to that point, it's just like, ugh.
Trust me, I have. But the thing is that I've learned a lot of the wrong things, and I've learned what I will and what I will not tolerate. And my pet hate of the week is gatekeepers.
Okay. So define a gatekeeper for me. Like, what's a gatekeeper for
Well, you
you?
call the doctor's office,
Okay.
and after you get through the computer voices, you get transferred to somebody who's too busy, would just as soon turn you on hold, is Johnny or JD three facts, and decides to start telling you things and getting in your way, because your way is to get an appointment as soon as possible. It would be nice to talk to the doctor as soon as possible, but they transfer you from one gatekeeper to another gatekeeper, and they're very officious, and you lose your name somewhere along the line. I mean, it's dearie, sweetie, honey. And unfortunately, I have horrible ways of dealing with this, and I usually use them all. And sooner or later, I get what I need, but it's very irritating.
See, no, see, what happens is you don't like. I can appreciate this. You don't want your time wasted anymore.
No, I
No,
don't.
that's what it is. Like that's I hate. Like I hate this now. Like I'm terrified. I'm 42. I have no patience for my time being wasted now. By the time I'm 50, I will probably be a full blown supervillain, and that'll be my origin story. I just got tired of waiting around, and I'm just doing it myself, right? And it's just like
Yeah.
that's I think what happens. I think what happens is right to some degree. To some degree, you understand. Sometimes the doctors, okay, in Doctor Stuff's case, maybe the doctor's very busy, so they design a system to kind of mitigate that, and to some degree, you can understand that. But there comes a point where it's just like, seriously, just give me the doctor. Give me. It'll take 5 minutes. I'll be out of your fucking way. I
Yeah.
promise. Right?
I've said to them, I've done due deference. Now I want what I want. Is
That's
it
right.
time? Do I get to ask my questions now? Do not mommy at me. I am a named person. You can call me by my name. You can call me Ms. You can call me Doctor. But you may not call me dearie, sweetie, or honey.
That is fair.
I think it's fair.
Yeah, it's totally fair. I can respect that.
They
I,
can't.
I
They're very, very busy. So then, okay, don't waste my time.
yeah, that's fair. That is totally fair. Again, I can respect that.
And
I
then
can
they
respect.
decide that, then they decide they're going to scold. And with the medical industry, I'm nervous, so I plan. And so I looked at one of them. I said, "Consider the possibility that you might be wrong." She was.
Yes, it does happen.
Yes,
It
I won't. I won't be scolded.
yeah,
I
no.
mean, I retired. I don't have to put up with corporate crap anymore.
I don't put up with it now. I look at it like this: if I'm working for you, and this might sound incredibly arrogant, just like if I'm working for you, I think you're worth my time. Don't make me change my mind. 'Cause if you change my mind, I'm not gonna be there.
I
I'm
was
at
on
that point.
Wall Street for 40 years.
Yeah,
Wall Street, like Honey Badger, don't care.
yeah. Hmm. That's right. And so if they don't care, why should I?
That's exactly it. But you would be astonished how many of the Zoomers or how many of the 20 somethings when I was still there were completely, "Oh, this is wonderful. This is great. I want to disadvantage myself." So you're an idiot.
Well, but again, but they don't know. See, that's the thing, right? So when you're in your 20s, you're trying. You're at that point. You're trying, like, you care, right? But you care about the wrong things because you don't realize like what you really want, like what you really want in your. Unless there are exceptions to this, but by and large, you don't want to waste time, and when you don't realize this until you're much older, it's like my time's valuable, and let's just do this so we can all move on with our lives, right? Tell me, let's be honest where each other stands. Let's figure out what each other wants, and let's see if we can work together to accomplish it. That's it. That's all that matters. Everything else is essentially a waste of time, right? But you got to figure that in your 20s, you play the game because you don't know. It usually has to kind of get beaten into you.
Well, you don't know enough to know how to play a power game,
Yeah,
which most of the games are.
absolutely. And it takes a long time to realize it, and then you realize, like, then ultimately what you realize is it's leverage. Who has the leverage? And once you realize that, like, and again, sometimes you don't have the leverage. Sometimes you do, and it depends on who and what you're dealing with. And for everybody, that's again, and each game is different. But most people don't understand that they're in that game to begin with. If that
Yep.
makes sense.
Well, silly things think they're going to have educations and careers.
Yeah.
They may, they can, but they're going to have to play the games.
To point, I don't think honestly careers are realistic anymore.
I don't
Because
think so either.
yeah, I think the reality of the situation is we are in a system that now is on the tail end, on its tail end. Everybody says late stage capitalism. What they really mean is this idea that you're going to go somewhere, work somewhere, and retire.
Ah,
It's not going to be there.
it would be nice,
Yeah,
but
it would be.
it's but what they do throw at us now is not worth killing ourselves for.
Yeah, well, that's what it comes down to. Like I'm trying to be self-employed. Like I'm a
Oh boy.
freelancer. I create advertising content for people. I write, like using my interview skills.
Yeah.
I create content. That's what I want to do. And the reason why I want to do this is because I realize ultimately I'm not going to retire. So what do I enjoy doing? I like writing stuff. I like making shit up. I like later
Mm.
hearing people's stories, and I like to travel. I like to occasionally go on dates, chase girls and occasionally catch them. And beyond all that, I like reading comic books, I like reading books, and I sometimes like video games. There's not much else in my life I give a damn about. So I'm going to work to create that life. Now, I don't, now again, it doesn't sound like I care about a house or a car, but it's because I'm single. Now, if I was married and had kids, I think about those things a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because a house for me by myself is too much work. Why would I kill myself? Right? That's how I look at it. Now, again, if I have kids, different. That's different. You're taking care of kids. You got to make sure they're in a good environment, right? Then
Right.
right. So that's a different mindset. But for me, eh. Because the way I look at it is, if I'm going to be spending the rest of my days doing something constructive to live, I might as well do what I want to do and not worry about what it's like the expectations, because everybody else is going to kill themselves, right? The alternative is to kill myself, and I'm too old for that shit. I have amused you.
I'm just sort of agreeing. But
Yeah.
I went through the whole dress for success thing with the nasty little bows on the Brooks Brothers suits, and I'm much more comfortable now.
Yeah. Well, that I think a lot of us, again, the wonderful thing that a lot of us don't realize, and this is just my 2 cents, is there are no rules. Like, legitimately, there are no rules. Out of the rules, it's like there's none. So if there is none, you can choose to live however you want to live. Now, there's a constant, you have to live, pay for it in one way or the other, but you can choose to live however you want to.
Yeah,
That's Once you realize that, that's totally freeing, because now you don't need to play, like, you can choose. You have to choose the games you play. But again, a lot of people don't realize this young. People realize this older, right?
hmm
I'm somewhere in the middle. I realized it, I think, younger than average. So now I'm trying to build myself up so I can just do what I want, because what else is there?
sounds good to me.
Yeah. I almost sound like I know what I'm doing. Almost.
Almost.
Almost. I don't. But I mean, that's the other wonderful thing. That's the other wonderful thing about life. It Life has a funny way of working out. Like, it really, really does. I think what what I encourage people to do now. This is, I think, one of the most important things. Be honest about what you want, because you're going to do what you want whether you realize it or not. But if you're honest about it, you can direct yourself. If you're not, you're being directed. And that's the difference.
If you're not, you're going to get yourself tangled up in other people's ideas for you, and that's going to be a pain in the butt. Also, but if you are honest, I am disastrously candid. And the
Love it.
people who would like to make themselves my intellectual or social or vocational betters can deal with anything but dreadful candor.
Yes. Well, because if you're being dreadfully candid, you just don't give a shit in, like, the
Oh,
best possible way.
I do give a shit. But on the other hand, sometimes, they'll say something and the words will just come out. Can't help it. Don't wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and say, gee, I should have said, because I believe me, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I said it.
No, see here, because the beautiful thing is, if you're honest, you don't have to remember shit. That's the best thing about it. You don't. There's nothing. You're not carrying anything. There's no tension.
Hmm. That hasn't been what I've found, but it's a different age cohort.
No, it's fair. It's fair. I have made mistakes. I've gone like, oopsie. Maybe I shouldn't have said it right there and then. I have made that
Oh
mistake,
yeah.
right? We've all made that mistake, but I don't regret saying it. Like, what? Like, in the
Oh
grand
no.
scheme of things, I don't have that regret, because honestly, if it's come out, I tend to think I do believe in some form of divine providence. I do believe in God. Maybe you don't, and that's cool. That's totally fine. But I do think things do happen for a reason when they're done. And the way I look at it at the long run is, if you can't handle my candor, you can't handle me. And I'd
That's true.
rather find that out now.
Much better to find it out now. You can save yourselves making a lot of mistakes.
Yeah. Again, this, I don't mind. I don't mind fucking up. I want my fuck ups to be unequivocally mine. Not no illusions.
Now here's a different thing. I was an only child.
Mhm.
I'm female. Females are not really people. We're the sum of everybody else's feedback. So you can't fuck up. You have to learn to get beyond that. But they want you to behave a certain way. And the penalties for not behaving that way, you have to be able to take them or not care about them.
Mhm.
or be able to counterattack. Sometimes I do the preemptive strike. That's a lot of fun.
I don't ever want to get on your bad side. I can already tell. Like I can already tell.
Well, look, I've been online since 1989,
Yeah.
and everybody who's been online that long has gone through the flame war stage,
Yes.
and I was good at it.
Yeah. Don't. Yeah. Yo, smile and put it right between the eyes because you just like you're not gonna miss. I get you.
Well, I have been on my own since I was 20.
Hmm.
I can't afford the luxury of being a tender blossom.
Nope.
And the tender blossoms who expect me to protect them, I don't do that.
Nope.
It's like I got enough trouble. I don't need to sort of lead somebody around by the hand unless I choose to.
You're not here to coddle people. Help, sure, but coddle, no,
Nope.
can't.
Especially not at my own expense, which is a terrible thing to say, but
No, no, it's not that terrible. Look, no, we don't owe each other. Like honest to God. Like one thing again, as older, wiser, no one owes anybody anything. Like no one, right? I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's necessarily terrible to kind of like, okay, I have a boundary that this is
a
where I'm going
boundary's
to
good.
go. Right, right. I don't think that's a terrible thing. I think that's an honest thing. The sad truth of the world, I'm Canadian, so a lot of Canadians don't necessarily go through this, but I've lived in the States, and one thing living in the States taught me was that sometimes you have to be ruthless. I'm not saying it should be your default. I'm not. I don't think it's necessarily a default as a default setting. I don't think it's a good thing, but you need that setting in you. You have to, because where you're at, and even it's true up here too, but up here it's more polite, for lack of a better term. I wouldn't say necessarily it's right or wrong. It's more polite, but down there it's more blunt. And the thing is, and the thing is about down there is you have to kind of understand. You have to understand that if you don't push back, you will always be pushed.
True.
Right, that is the big difference of living in the United States versus living in Canada. That is the biggest. In the United States, you better be willing to be confrontative. You better be willing to assert yourself, because sometimes it's required.
Yep.
If you don't have it in you, you will get run over. That is just the way it is.
Well, one of the things I would like to do, and that I try to do within my home communities, is to build a thing where people are independent.
Yeah.
But the least sign of somebody trying to say, "Oh, good, I'm fragile. You can take care of me. You can give me your stuff." I don't do that.
No.
I may choose to do it, but just don't try to guilt trip me or start babbling at me about being selfish.
Oh,
My boundaries are quite good.
guilt is a rope that wears thin, and
Oh,
in my
yeah.
case it's very quick. It's very quick because I don't owe you anything. And that's and I say it like that because it's like, because it's very clear. It's very like defined. Now, that doesn't mean I won't help people.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I won't go out, I won't be charitable. I mean that, but again, that's a having that boundary is a good choice. It's like it's a healthy thing. I don't think what you said is necessarily terrible. I think again, I've not walked in your shoes. You've had to be who, like you said this. You were in Wall Street for 40 years.
Yep.
There's some ruthless fuckers in Wall Street. So
No.
no. So you had to be, you were in an environment where you had to learn to be tough. And I right like right. So you having the boundaries you had, they've served you in a good way. Cuz or you needed it for the environment you were in, right? I'm not saying they're perfect, because nothing is, but they're there for a reason.
I tend to think of them as survival skills.
Hmm.
The thing that helped me the most with New York was growing up in a steel town in Ohio.
Where are you from?
Youngstown, Ohio.
Okay. My family's from Detroit, so I'm not too far
Oh,
away from you.
okay, then you know.
Yes. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Right across the lake.
Yep, absolutely. No, absolutely. Uh, I'm just asking because this will give me an idea of your time frame. How old are you? Because I don't actually know.
I'm 74.
You're 74. Okay, so okay. I know I understand the environment. I understand the time you grew up in. My dad, you are just a little older than my dad.
Oh, God.
My dad is 67.
Uh-huh.
So he grew up in Detroit. This was in the 50s and 60s. So you would be 50s and 60s.
Uh-huh.
Apex, Ohio, in terms of economy. You grew up. I don't know how rough the area would be compared. I don't think it was Detroit bad, but I don't know if it was necessarily the easiest place in the world to get along with. But you dealt
I
with a
used to
certain.
call it Crime Town, USA.
Yeah. Okay. So
A
okay, that's
Youngstown tune-up, you put your foot on the ignition and boom.
okay. Gotcha. Detroit was the murder capital during that era.
Yeah,
So yep. So I again, I'm comparing. I'm just comparing it in my head, like just the ideas, and it's like okay. So on that note, so again, you grew up. So I have an idea exactly how you grew up, and exactly like you were tough. You were all like you had to be tough when you were young, and ironically, it probably prepared you perfectly for New York because
it
you
did.
know, because there was nothing New York could throw at you that you hadn't experienced.
That's exactly it.
Yep. Yeah. So, and that's because again, where you were at, you've seen the booms, you've seen the busts, you've seen people take advantage of people because that's just again that happens
Hmm.
in prosperous times, and then you also have seen the down like the ugly underside like that depending on how and what part of the city you grew up in, you saw it all, and then when you
Yep.
left, it's like right, and when you left, it was like okay, so I've seen this. There's nothing new here. Let's roll. Right?
Yep.
You're not going to shock me. You're not going to shock me with anything. I'm sure you were surprised from time to time, but shock? No.
Nah. There actually there was one time when I was shocked out of my mind, and I will never be over it.
Okay.
9/11,
Ah,
my industry.
yes. It
I
all
mean, a
comes
lot
time.
of people got hurt, but all we could think of, we were in a meeting. It's at 7:30 in the morning. Place is crawling with managing directors. Somebody runs in screaming. She was one of the admins, and her husband is a firefighter. And we all sort of looked, and who do we have who's in the air right now? And then somebody said Morgan Stanley has 3,500 people down there. And we said, geez, and went on with the meeting because we didn't know what else to do. And when we finished the meeting, the security came in and evacuated us.
Yep.
I said, I can't quite go yet. The people on the internet are calling for me now. They have to know I'm alive. So I typed in very quickly, I'm I'm in Midtown, not downtown. I'm safe. God help all of us, and got the hell out of there. Funny, the weirdest thing, I got cash because you read science fiction, you know what's going to happen after the bomb drops. And I went and I got cash because I didn't think they'd take plastic. And I saw I thought might be the world's last taxi. And I flung myself into it because I was going up to visit some people and I was going to stay there because I knew I lived in Queens and I knew that they would close down Manhattan from the outer boroughs. And so as we're going up towards Central Park West, this guy gets out in the middle of the street and flags the cab down. And he comes to the window and I roll it down a little and he starts talking. And I looked at him and I said, I'm at Alliance Bernstein. Where are you? And it was a trick question. He was an equity trader. I said, okay, get in. Because on one hand, a cab with one person in it, that's a bad use of resources in what could be the end of the world. On the other hand, unless I know who you are, I'm not letting you in my cab. But he was part of my community, so I shared. I also thought he was making a damn sight more money than I was, which is a trader he was, and that he might fit the pay for the cab, and he did.
Yeah, fair enough. It sounds like a scary time.
I d-
I hadn't ever talked to with someone that was actually right in the heart of it like that before.
yeah.
No.
Can
So,
we talk? Please talk about something else.
sure, we can talk about anything else you want. Anything else. I didn't expect to go here, to be perfectly honest with you.
Nope.
So okay. How about we go to your secret origin story here? Let's do secret origin story here. Let's get into um okay, so somewhere along the way you started writing.
Yep.
So when did you start?
I started when I was a kid,
Okay.
but being a well brought up little Jewish girl, I had to come up with appropriate ideas, and I was rotten at it. And my parents would sort of say, "You're not a happy child." So basically, I sacrificed the writing so they could have a happy child, which proved to be spectacularly unsuccessful because I got into college right during the Troubles. Went to the November moratorium, the March Against Death in November '69, I think it was. And I was a marshal on the Potomac Bridge
Mhm.
and had the rug jerked out from under me in 1970. First, my father died, and then Kent State happened. And then I went to graduate school, earning 100% of my own expenses. And somewhere along those lines, I started writing again.
So was
And
it so I'm just going to ask, was it like, considering everything you were going through, was it almost therapeutic?
no,
No,
it was
just
just it was just the next step.
oh, okay, gotcha.
And I kept writing and writing and writing, and I wrote a lot of crap. You have to, you, it's the technical term is writing the crap out, and I'm still doing it. But some of the writing, after a while, it gets pretty good. Some of it got really good.
Yeah.
At least I think so.
Well, I think what happens is you just realize I've gotten to the point myself where it's just like the important thing the first time around is to get the idea down. After that, it's just really a matter of practice. And sometimes and occasionally good things come out. But I'm also okay with that the bad things come out too.
The important thing, really, to start with, is to get your butt in the chair and start filling up the screens.
Hmm.
Because if you can do anything else, I'll dust, I'll wash dishes, I'll scrub pots, anything but writing. But
Hmm.
once my butt's in the chair, I'm writing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's important. That's the important thing. Like, I'm doing that later today when we're done. I got some things to write because I got a manuscript that I'm actually working on for we talked about. I talked about it a little bit in the chat. I don't know if it was one you were in. I have a Night Witch killing evil versions of Knights of the Round. So
Ooh,
yeah, it was fun. I
should
didn't
be
quite.
fun.
It didn't quite stick the landing. The journey's good, but the landing, you know. So I got to fix the landing. That's basically I got to make the landing. I want the landing to be a 10, not maybe we'll say it. I'll be nice to myself. I'll say a 6.
Well, a good landing is a landing you walk away from.
That's true. I'd walk away from it, maybe limping a little bit. I probably limped a little bit away from that one. It wasn't like that perfect like boom, oh my god, I got you.
Well, revision is a hell of a lot of fun.
Yes. Yes it
I love
is.
revising.
I like revising I like revising other people's stuff, like as an editor. My own stuff is harder because I can't see through my shit as easily, if that
And
makes
nope,
sense.
I definitely can. But I'm at the point now with this story, it's at 9,300 words, which was the outside of as much as I thought I was going to get. And it's pretty solid. Now I'm going through it and trying to choose synonyms that are within the mindset of the characters.
Hmm.
I mean, I can put in placeholders. I can use progressive verbs until the cows come home. But hitting the right verb not only cuts out an extra word and cuts down your word count, which is a good thing, but it's a more powerful word.
Yep, and not only that, it's a more powerful character too,
Oh,
because if you have the
yeah.
right, because you want your characters to sing, and if they're not singing, then it's not their fault; it's your fault.
Well,
That's the thing. That's the thing about as a writer. It's like your characters are already fully formed. More often than not, you have them in your head, right? Your job is you're kind of like the bridge between. Sometimes, sometimes, again, it's never quite perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you have to do it justice. This is what I've learned anyway.
it has to make sense. And since I'm dealing with an historical character, I'm never going to get it right.
No,
This is early 12th century Byzantine,
yeah,
and I'm a Western medievalist, not a Byzantinist. But I can fake it fairly well,
yes.
and I've read her primary stuff, so I now know how her mind works to a certain extent, and she's tricksy. So I have so I have to come up with words that are arrogant and sneaky and patient and occasionally humble until she can think her way out of that one.
Yep,
And then I get to strike.
that's right.
It's alternate history.
And that's the best part. Well, even if it was real history, like what with real history, we don't know these people,
No, we don't know
right?
these people.
All we can look at, and whether they're people we admire or the people we don't, people we don't admire, is how we connect to them. That's it.
I wouldn't
Hello,
trust this woman as far as I could throw her.
that's fair.
And I could probably throw her because she was very little. On the other hand, I admire her. I respect her. She cracks me up, and I'd be scared to death of her.
That might be a wise thing.
Oh, it would definitely be a wise thing. She wants to be emperor.
Yeah. That I mean that is something that you have to respect. The ambition is admirable.
Well, she was raised to be co emperor with a suitable husband, who was her cousin, who died when she was 14.
Yep.
And then her father and mother had a son, and guess what? No more empress. So
Mm,
she wants that back. Now, in regular history, she didn't get it back, and she wound out up in a convent for the rest of her life,
mhm.
writing a history of her father's reign. It's one heck of a history. It's one of the few histories in the Middle Ages that's bylined by a woman, at least
Yes.
that I know. And she is an extremely cultivated, knowledgeable, and tough woman.
And that part I think you probably in particular could connect to.
Oh, yeah, the mindset is easy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just because I don't think it's changed in 1,000 years, right? It's
It
just
hasn't.
no. I mean that's that. I mean it is what it is. Like the kind of people that want to make differences in the world, they have a certain ambition and a drive, and they look at life as a certain challenge. The tools they have are maybe a bit different because again,
Mhm.
the times are different, but very often it's just the same attitude, just reimagined in a wonderfully different way. And it's neat that no matter how far back or forward in history we go, we're not that different.
Did your computer just freeze?
It did. It did. Let's try that again. What I said basically was it doesn't matter how far we come or go. Human beings are as the same. Like it's kind of there's a lot of similarities and we're not that different.
No, we're not. She's got some major differences, though.
Yeah.
She doesn't see herself, she sees herself by class rather than by gender.
Hmm.
She's imperial,
That's
and therefore she wants the privileges of her class.
that's fair. I can see that. And she's fighting
She
for
doesn't,
it.
oh, she's going for it with everything she's got.
Yeah. because she doesn't see the difference, and that's something to admire too.
Well, she's pretty pissed off that other people do.
Yeah.
They got
So,
in the way of her education. So she bribed a scholar to teach her privately.
yep.
I got they got in a way they got in the way of her learning what she needed to learn, the armies. So she figured out a way of getting to know some of the soldiers. Byzantium had one hell of a mercenary cadre. She learned to deal with some of them.
Yep. And that makes sense because she was determined. If she's not going to get it one way, she's going to get it another, and that's just how she looks at it.
She's ferocious.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, you put her in purple, you hang the jewels for her ears, she stands up straight and looks at you, and you wouldn't think butter would melt. Ah,
Some of the toughest people I know look like that. You just look again. It's the eyes give it away. Usually, when I look at those people, it's like, nope, you're ferocious, and I'm not fucking with you.
I can do it.
Yeah, I know you can. You already have.
I did.
Uh-huh. I saw. Listen, when in 5 minutes of our conversation, just 5 minutes, figured out three very quickly three things about you.
What's those?
You're very very sharp.
Mm-hmm.
You're very very sharp. You catch things incredibly quickly. Two, right? You do not suffer fools. I've been
Not at
very
all.
straight. Not at all. You don't. I've been very straight with you. I've been very honest with you. I tend to be that way anyway, but with you, it is the only chance I'll have that you'll respect me.
Uh-huh.
Right? And I figured that out really quickly. The third thing I picked up about you is you have a certain appreciation for that candor and honesty yourself because of you being so candor yourself. It's refreshing for someone like you because again, some of the things you deal with, you don't like. Again, I picked this up. You don't like having your time wasted. So,
No, I don't.
so one, two, I picked that up within 5 minutes.
Good for you.
Yeah, I picked that up within 5 minutes. So I had again the nature of this conversation has been the way it has been because candor, right? And just again, I'm never gonna. I could see points where personally we would disagree on things,
Completely.
right? But
Sure.
at the same time, I never would lose respect for you for it. I still have it. I don't know if you drink beer or coffee or tea, whatever it is you drink. I would always have a drink with you, and I'd always would respect you for it.
Beer, coffee, single malt. I love single malt.
Okay, gotcha. So where are you still in the New York area now?
I live in Connecticut.
Okay, you live in Connecticut. Okay, cool. So if I'm ever in the Connecticut thing, I'm tell you what. Regardless of it, I'll have a malt with you.
Great. What kind do you like?
Uh, I, I'm pretty open. I like. We have like either it could be if it's alcoholic. I'm open to pretty much anything that way. But if it's non-alcoholic, there's like a tiger malt thing. Depending on what you have offer, I'll drink with you. I'm good with.
Cool.
I'm pretty good with it. If it's just beer, I prefer Guinness. I like a dark ale. So
To me, that tastes like turpentine or
that's
tar
fair.
on a roof.
It's an
I mean,
acquired taste. I got you.
I know I haven't had the chance to acquire it. And if there's Lagavulin or Lefroy, I'd rather drink them.
That's cool. That is totally cool. I like I said, I just as I've gotten older, I appreciate bitter a little bit more, but I also kind of see. I blame my dad a little bit for this. So when my dad, again, my dad's a naturopath, so he would come up with these concoctions in the blender. Okay, and
Uh-huh.
he'd be like, "Josh, try this." I'm going to tell you something. Some of the stuff I ingested would curl your hair, like
I'm sure
legitimate.
of it.
It was just like wow. But as is, I have a very strong tolerance for bitter. I have a very strong tolerance for just a lot of my palate's really strong. So it's one of those things where I can just I can handle a lot. And as I've gotten older, I think that's translated. So when I do have stuff like beers and stuff, I tend to lean. I either go really sweet or really bitter, and not very much in the middle.
And my father was an Ohio lawyer,
Yeah.
and lawyers during that time were Scotch drinkers. And he thought that if he was sending me east to college, I ought to learn to drink like a lady, and that meant Scotch.
Scotch
So
is
when I was
sneaky.
15, I was started on Scotch.
Scotch is sneaky. That's the thing about Scotch. It's sneaky because when you're sitting down, you can drink it and you may not feel it, but when you stand up,
It's
right into
not as
effect.
bad. It's not as bad as vodka. I I know what Scotch will do with me. I
Yeah.
can't tell about vodka. I won't go near some of the other things.
No, it's fair. No, it's fair. Like again, to each their own. I vodka. I've used vodka medicinally. I'll use it. I'll use it in terms of like using it to cut and like ferment stuff and stuff along that way to actually make extracts and stuff like that. That's why
Oh yeah.
yeah, that's what I use vodka for. Gin, I use gin for that too. But I mean, vodka's the usually my go-to with that. It cuts stuff, and it's really good at that. And if I do go to a bar, if I'm not really sure, the first thing I will tend to order is a screwdriver. Right? It's my first drink. Then after that, I'll drink what I normally drink. It's kind of like a coat to protect me from if there's anything in the air. Right? So that's what I use vodka for. But yes, some of it could legitimately start a car. I can understand you. I can understand why you'd be a little reluctant to do it. So, yeah.
Yep.
So I'm gonna ask. I'm just gonna ask you. I'm just as a because you've done other things as well. What's the story you're most proud of?
Hard to say. In terms of books, probably my novel Grail of Hearts.
Okay.
I got the idea for it when I was at the Metropolitan Opera listening to Wagner's Parsifal, and I realized there's a book in here for me. And there's a book in here that will turn Wagner on his ass. And I started writing notes in the program, with my finger under my pen so that I wouldn't write over and over and over. And I came home and I typed it up. And this thing has sold all over the world. And it's one heck of a good book.
It sounds like
And
I should read it.
it's wonderful. And if you like Wagner, it's hysterical.
Okay. I'll check it
And
out.
I'm an opera freak, see? And then short stories. One of them was Loose Cannon, which deals with the idea that in 1935, Lawrence of Arabia did not die in his motorcycle crash, but is put back together by a bunch of surgeons, by a Freudian psychiatrist, Ernst Jones, and is sent to number 10 Downing Street during the height of World War II. And they have a mission for him. And the mission for him is to take out Rommel or to turn Rommel. That was a good one. And the thing that was fun about it was that I got to write it in his style. And I've been reading Lawrence since I was 14. So this was an awful lot of fun.
This was yeah. That would the equivalent to me. I'm a comic book freak. Like
Uh,
I'm a comic book freak. So the equivalent to that for me would be if I got a chance to write Green Lantern for DC Comics. I wouldn't care.
ooh.
I wouldn't care for how long. It could be an 8-page story. It could be it could be a run. I would give me the characters there, right? I don't care. I actually don't even care which character. Give me a character. I'll knock it out of the park. That would be like my right. I'd have fun. I wouldn't care if it sold a copy. That would just be like that's my total. It'd be a total homage to everything I loved about. I have loved growing up reading that book.
I loved it. And another story I was proud of was for alternate presidents. You picked up the president who lost. In my case, it was McGovern.
What? Oh, what year is that? When who was he running against?
Nixon.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting choice.
And basically, I set it in my hometown. I set it in my street. I made it first person. I gave the narrator my father's voicings, and the story is of what happens after McGovern plans an instant and unilateral withdrawal from Vietnam.
You know, yeah, because we're still like considering the history of what's going on even in the world today. Not like I said, we're not going to go into depth because I've enjoyed this conversation, and I think politics would soil it at this
I
particular
think you're
point,
right.
right? What I would say is Vietnam changed how the U.S. looked at war.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
that's such an interesting question because I think there was a point when people were for the war, and then there was a point where people just wanted it to end, right?
Different kind of war. We weren't equipped for that kind of war.
No, well,
It's
no,
asymmetric war is different from the kind of Clausewitzian things we did during World War II.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and I don't think we were there for the right reasons either, to be perfectly
Oh, I
honest with
didn't
you.
think we were there for the right reasons either.
Yeah,
Um,
honestly, it's colored everything since. And like I said, we don't talk about politics today, but again, I think a lot of us. My dad literally missed going to Vietnam by a month. Like he was literally like he got his draft card.
Ah,
He got his draft card, and he was going to go off in a month, and
yep,
then the war ended. He was so grateful for it because he
74.
yeah, yeah. So I know that colored his perceptions of war, and as such, it's also colored my perceptions of how a lot of wars and how they're fought today and why they're fought today. So it like yeah, that would be an interesting. I should read more of your books. That's basically what you're basically telling me.
And you see, it's from the viewpoint of a man who was an Army infantry officer at the Battle of the Bulge, which was my
Oh,
father's service record.
so you would have hated that war.
Vietnam,
Yeah.
he died in 70. He didn't talk. If I asked
Uh,
him anything, he'd say, go play in traffic.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm just, but I don't know if he would. Again, I think just based on what he'd see, just I mean, maybe if I'm overstepping, just let me know. But based on things he's probably saw, I don't think he'd be for it. But
He
that's me.
wasn't.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have been for it strategically or tactically because you either fight or you don't fight. You don't
Exactly.
half-ass it.
No. Yeah, no, you can't. Like that. Like you just can't. Like there's no. Like I said, we could go into this big longer, but I should say I'll just simply sum it up by this: the war never should be a business, not the way it is today, and that's
Oh, you're talking about Robert Strange McNamara. No
yeah,
way.
yeah, no,
Yick.
yeah, no, no,
It was an interesting story to write, and
yeah,
one of the critics in Canada was grossly offended by it. Francophone critic.
yep,
Did not approve of things that were not appropriately Marxist. I'm not appropriately Marxist. I thought it was kind of funny.
I'm not properly Marxist either. Sometimes I wonder why I'm here, but I mean sometimes, but yeah,
But but the thing is that there was a lot more appropriate Marxism and other boring things when I was
yeah,
of an age to be influenced, and I wasn't.
sure. I mean, there's I do think he's required reading because he has such an interesting way of looking at how things work. But yeah, it is like I said. I look at how today has. I look at where we're at, and I'm thinking, at this particular point, um, how to put this? I wish for more honest times. Does that if that makes sense? I wish.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
But for me, I discredit Marx, which is a stupid thing to say, kind of grandiose. But he had a wife and servants who made
Yeah.
it possible for him to sit on his butt and write about the withering away of the state.
Yep.
And To me, this seems a trifle much.
No, it's fair. I don't necessarily say I agree with Marx. I just think he should be read. He's one of those
Oh, yeah,
guys.
absolutely.
I think his ideas, especially how the state tends to malfunction, I
Oh,
think
yeah.
he's dead. I think he's dead on. I think he's absolutely dead on. I'm not so sold on his solutions,
No, not at all.
right? But I do think he does a really good job of pointing out the problems. And honestly, right? I think he's great. I think honestly looking at him from that perspective is very, very good because honestly, it's like, okay, this is the flaw of their system, and this is why it fails. And
Yeah,
I can't dispute. I don't think he's disputable there.
I don't think he is either. But what it's the sort of things that have accreted around him, like
Mhm.
undergraduates with trust funds whose parents give them cars so they can organize the workers. Huh?
Yeah. Well, like I said,
There was one at the college where I taught that did exactly that. You know,
I,
that
I
one child is telling me about the evils of material things, and she's got a handbag that I know cost $1,200 on her desk. And I can't take my eyes off the handbag because I'm thinking, you know, you've got splotches of rouge on your face. You've got a Louis Vuitton handbag on your desk, and you're coming up with this terrible gobbledygook, and I'm not allowed to snicker at you.
no, I'm going to snicker at you. I'm really going. Like I'm at that point. No, I'm legitimately going to snicker at you, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to give you the respect of honesty, and whether how you take it is up to you.
I was 28 years old, and my department chair hated me.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So I had to behave until I could do something better.
That's
But
fair.
I did call her after class. I said, if you're going to talk about condemning material things, maybe you better have a different handbag.
How'd you take that? I'm
Not
curious.
well. She got her feelings hurt. I didn't want her to get her
I
feelings hurt. I just wanted her to get a handbag without the labels on it.
no, it's fair. I can appreciate that. Like I understand the irony of that, right?
It was pretty funny.
Oh, it's hilarious. I've seen it. Even today, I will go on my Facebook. I will see at least one post a week decrying the evils of capitalism
Oh,
every,
yeah.
and I'm like, odd, funny, but odd, you know. So, but it's the world we're in right now. Like I said, what I want is like again at this point in my life, I just realized like it would be a better world if it was a more honest one.
Yep.
That's the honest that is the honest thing we need right now more than anything else. To the rest, I mean, we could debate the rest, but I think if everything was just a touch more honest today, I think we would be a healthier nation.
I think you're right.
Yep. That's what I think, right? And maybe have two guys that are maybe um, younger than that make my dad might make my dad look like a young man still, not run for president. That also would be probably a good thing, but that's a problem I don't know what the solution is for. So
Well, depending on what happens to him, I've got my eyes on David Hogg.
yeah, I I'm gonna be honest with you. If there was a third candidate, like this would be the year if a third person ran and they were about 20 years younger. I almost don't care. They're almost by default better. Almost by default.
I'm, I'm plenty worried. On the other hand, I'm even more worried about putting Trump back. I'm
I'm
terrified of it.
I, okay, so I don't think Trump's a good person. I don't think
No,
Biden's a good person. I just think I think I think the question is for for each of them benefits certain people differently. Like when Trump was in, my grandmother's pension was better than when Biden was in.
Yeah.
So she might vote for Trump just because she'd get her pension taken care of, right? I'm keeping this really simplistic. I realize this is a much. I mean, Trump
Yeah.
has a lot of problems, and Biden's the same way. There are people that vote for Biden, right? There are people that vote for Biden that benefit from him. But at this particular point in time, looking at both those guys, legitimately, there's two questions. Will both of them be alive at the end of their next term? Because
That's
I think
true.
that's a legitimate that is a and honestly, what worries me about both of them is neither of them have their full faculties.
No.
Neither of them. So you watch both of them, and you're looking at both of them, and it's just like, okay, I'm not worried. I'm oddly not worried about either of them hurting the country or doing an insurrection or a coup. What worries me is neither of them neither of them are how should I put this, quick on the draw anymore.
That's true.
Yeah, right. Neither of them are quick on the draw anymore, and it's like I don't know if I want you to either of you. Let's be honest, either of you making a decision. I like again by default, if somebody was came in 10, 20 years younger than either of them, they would almost by default be better. That's how bad both of them are.
I just don't trust third parties right now. We've got too much to lose.
I that might that's fair, but I just don't like. I'm at a point where I don't trust either of them, right?
Mm,
But for different reasons for both of them. But I don't trust either of them. I don't trust Trump to be. I'm not worried about him taking over the country or being a dictator forever because he's too old. B, I don't think he's competent enough. But C, I do think he's again. His history says he'll stiff people. He'll be divisive. He'll be this. Biden's history says he also will be divisive, but also at this particular point in time, he doesn't he will shoot his own credibility. So you got two guys. I'm looking at them and I'm going, this isn't strong enough for me to think about either of them seriously, right? Because it's just that's where I'm at. Now again, that's just how I see it. I'm looking at them and I'm just going, yikes. And why are both of them running again? Why am I getting this rematch I don't want?
because we don't have anything coming to the fore.
Yeah, and that's honestly my real concern. Like I'm just being very frank with you. I'm not Trump. I can see why he scares some people, but he doesn't scare me that way. He scares me because he's an old man. He's an old man that will probably that has no what he might. I don't know if he's the more or less sensible of the two of them, but I mean he's just not a good person. Biden, he scares me because he definitely does not have his faculties, and you can see it. And he might be a better person than Trump, but that's a low bar. Like honestly, that's not that's the right that's where I'm at.
I think you have to look at their staff, at the
Yeah.
quality of the people that they surround themselves with. I mean, if neither of them is cognitively all there, who is there?
Yeah, but okay, this is where it gets kind of but isn't that kind of damning on both sides?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the thing. Like I don't have a good answer if that makes sense.
Neither do I.
Yeah, I don't have a good answer at this point. It's just like I'm just looking at this honestly. I'm just saying to myself that at this point, like honestly, if a candidate showed up that was 20 years younger, I wouldn't care which party it was. I would just vote like again, just by any kind of measurement. they're going to at least be cognizant, right? And that. I mean, that's a very low bar. I acknowledge, but I can't say that about either of them right now, and that honestly is scary.
That's scary.
Yeah.
What time is it? Because I have another thing I have
Yeah, I
to
know.
go.
We're gonna wrap this up like right now because
Okay. I
we're
don't
wrapping
mean
this
to
up.
be rude, but you've got a thing you need to do, and I've got a thing I need to do.
No. Hey, listen. Thank you for having a conversation.
I'm delighted to. I
Yeah.
feel like I've hogged all this time,
Oh,
and this is a very bad thing when you're conventionally brought up. I mean, my gosh, you're not being allowing yourself to be interrupted by more prestigious people. My
yeah.
gosh, it's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, okay. We should plug something before you go.
Okay,
So, how about we do this? Either obviously we've already talked about by the time this comes out on the audio, the Kickstarter will be finished, and the
I
Kickstarter I'm
hope
already
so.
putting. So, do you have something else you can talk about?
I am working with two books. One is called Jewish Futures. It's edited by Michael Resnick and no, not Michael Resnick, Michael Burstein. Michael Resnick is long dead. And it is 50 years after now. What do you think will be happening 50 years from now? And I've got a two-state solution, teams from both states climbing Mount Everest together.
They both sound fun. They both sound fun. Do you
Oh,
know
it's
when
old.
either of them are coming out?
Jewish Futures is out,
Okay.
and it's been given the reprint rights to another anthology, and I'm embarrassed that I've forgotten its name.
It's
And
all good.
proceeds of that anthology will go to Mogen David Adom, which is the Jewish Medical Society.
Awesome.
You know, it's the equivalent of the Red Cross or the Red Crescent.
Fair enough. Real quick, then, before we wrap up, is there any way people can find you? Do they want to say hi to you?
I'm on Facebook.
All right.
I'm
All
on
right.
LinkedIn. I'm on Quora. I'm on Reddit. I'm usually getting myself into trouble.
Listen. I wouldn't have it any other way. Ladies and gentlemen, this was Susan Schwartz. I was fun. I'm sorry. I want to apologize to you all on the air. Sorry about my computer having the problems it had, or this would have been a little longer. But anyways,
Thank you very much for having me. And
yeah.
the
Don't.
thing with computer, percussive maintenance. Hit it.
I go with intimidation with fear. But for everybody watching, everybody listening, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I'll see you guys next time.